Welcome to another episode of Politics Wrap with me, Natasha Phiri. Moving on to this story, the IFP says its decision to form part of the Government of National Unity was a step in the right direction. The party says the first 100 days of the GNU have been a major success in bringing hope and stability to the government. The IFP leadership addressed the media in Durban today, where the party tabled its reflections on the state of the Government of National Unity. Joining us now is IFP National Spokesperson Mkhuleko Hlengwa. Mr. Hlengwa, thank you so much for joining us on the Politics Wrap.
An absolute pleasure, Natasha. Good evening to you and the viewers.
Thank you. So I think first and foremost, condolences to the party on the passing of Princess Sibuyiselwa Angela Buthelezi. But just on your reflections of her, you know, what contributions did she make to the IFP and specifically Parliament? I mean, she served on various portfolio committees, tourism, cocktail and human settlements, water and sanitation as well.
On behalf of the IFP, we want to convey our sincerest condolences to the Buthelezi family, particularly Inkosi Zuzifa Buthelezi, uNdlunkulu Mamhale, and Princess Phumzile Buthelezi, and Princess Sibuyiselwa's daughter, Ntando, on this very sudden and tragic loss of Princess Angela, whom umntwana kaPhindangene affectionately called Usiphetho. And we had really not anticipated that her illness would take a turn for the worse. We were just with her, in fact, 2 weeks ago when we were at the IFP's caucus summit, which brought all legislature and parliamentary members together, and she continued to make contributions and had actually flown down to Cape Town for parliamentary duties when she took ill. Princess Angela was a leader in her own right, quietly doing work. She had worked in the SAPS, she had been the municipal manager of Ulundi municipality, and ill health forced her to take early retirement from work, and she recovered from that, and then she took up full active roles in the IFP, including being a member of the Political Oversight Committee, which is responsible for the work of overseeing the work of councillors because of her very vast and successful experience as a municipal manager. She left a lasting legacy in Ulundi municipality where she had actually worked. In Parliament, she was very focused on the substantive issues representing constituency views and advancing the policy agenda, and she made a very meaningful contribution in all the portfolios she held. And of course, she was a member of the IFP's National Council, and we were quite happy with the work that she was doing, and we are feeling her loss and her contribution because we know the impact that it had. And of course, for the Buthelezi family, this comes as a complete and utter shock to all of them following the passing of umntwana kaPhindangene in 2023 and the passing of Princess Irene in 2019. We keep them in our prayers, and the family has asked for space and time. The leadership is on the ground to make sure that they get the full assistance, and will await the decisions of the family insofar as funeral arrangements is concerned, and then make those announcements. But to the Buthelezi family, President Hlabisa today conveyed the condolences and our assurances of our fullest support.
In your briefing today, you also reflected on the outcomes of the NEC, which you held, correct me, 2 weeks ago. And you also made reflections of the 100 days of the GNU. According to the IFP, how has the past 100 days been so far?
Well, the past 100 days have been successful in that we have been able to cover the basis of establishing a government, particularly in the face of the pessimism of some in certain quarters who wished the GNU not to succeed. And where there have been differences, they have provided an opportunity to actually put in place conflict resolution mechanisms, policy management issues in the form of the GNU clearinghouse, which will be chaired by the Deputy President and brings the parties together. In fact, the next meeting is on Thursday to begin dealing with issues. And so I think South Africans can take comfort and confidence in the fact that there is maturity in how matters are being dealt with. And I think the second point really is that obviously this is a new phenomenon, and so we are going to trial and error in terms of putting the mechanisms and instruments in place. But we fundamentally believe that the GNU is the step in the right direction, and the past 100 days have proven that the country is in good hands and in safe hands, and leadership is being provided. And I'm certain that the departments now are going to begin, having adjusted the annual performance plans. You do know the president announced the medium-term development plan. He pointed out to the Government of National Unity strategic objectives, which came out of a consultative process of the merging of manifestos and finding and lifting the issues which were of common, across the spectrum of those manifestos. And so out of that, there is a concrete program of action which now government departments must align. So as far as the IFP is concerned, so far so good.
And I like the fact that you actually put the clearinghouse committee here. This is where I want to go. And especially you also mentioned the MTDP as well. You have issues where some GNU partners are not finding or are not seeing each other eye to eye on. It's no surprise the Bella Bill, the NHI in its current form. How do you see certain parties like the DA and, the ANC reconciling, or probably, some of them actually making sacrifices? Also from the IFP, what contribution do you make in ensuring that, all the parties in the GNU somewhat have some common ground or find each other around these issues where people don't agree with?
Well, it's common cause that you're bringing 10 parties together. You are bringing 10 manifestos together, you are bringing 10 sets of policy agenda together and collapsing them into one common program of action. There's going to be a series of compromises, there's going to be disagreements. Where it's important is how you respond to that reality. Now, the Deputy President announced last week that the Bella Act matters will serve before the clearinghouse on Thursday, and we'll begin having conversations about it. There are areas that have been suspended in the Bella Act, which we'll have to look at and find a program to implement. Also, of course, most acts really, they work on the basis of regulations, and so the regulatory construct is going to be important. And I think we need to have conversations about it. So I would really at this point say there's no crisis. I think what has happened, an opportunity has presented itself early on in the life of the GNU to indicate that where these challenges arise, what must we do? You raised the issue of the NHI. Obviously, we, as the IFP, we subscribe to the notion of universal access to healthcare. Where we disagree is the format in which and structure in which the NHI is currently constructed, the funding model, the governance structures, and we believe that the basics have not been done. And so the discussion we are going to be having is less a policy issue, because there's agreement about universal access, but it's how you now do it. And so I think that is a major step in the right direction, as opposed to still debating as to whether it should be done or not. The issue is it should be done. What we must now be talking about is how. And so we will be going with that open mind. And I think the clarion call the IFP is making is that let us not make a mudslinging match out of disagreement. We have got a responsibility to the citizens, we've got a responsibility to the economy, to the country, and to the desperate daily lived material conditions of the people to do things right and to do things maturely. And the IFP is strategically positioned as the voice of reason, and I think that we will be moving forward in the GNU and the clearinghouse with that kind of attitude. Finally, is to say there has to be a concrete understanding from parties that a government of this construct and nature is one of compromises, and there is no winner takes all. So there will have to be a clarity of mind about that, to say that the difficult conversations will be around compromises.
I wish I was actually going to be a fly in the wall in that clearinghouse.
Well, I mean, I think we are quite transparent, and where there are issues, we will communicate the decisions. But what's important is that what South Africans must take comfort in is that the nature and spirit of the GNU from its inception to date has been good. And I think President Ramaphosa has made it a point to be consultative of the GNU partners, understanding that he remains in office on the basis of a broad societal support coming from these political parties. And so there is strength in the consultative process, because in itself the GNU has got checks and balances, which strengthens then the democratic project and the service delivery agenda, because it builds on top of what we already have as accountability and oversight mechanisms. And if you look at practice around the world, it's quite clear that the norm is governments of this nature, and so we need to begin borrowing experiences, and we've got a duty to provide stability, because if we do not do that, the risk is for the citizens, it's for the economy, and it's for jobs, and we can't certainly sacrifice at the altar of political expediency the citizens of this country. And so really what we are saying is that let us be able to agree to disagree without being disagreeable.
Okay, Mr. Hlengwa, just quickly, the IFP next year is a very big year for you. Not only are you going to an elective conference, but you're also turning 50. As you look through the 50 years of the party, what are the highs, the lows of the party? What can you do better? Also, has a date been set for the elective conference? And just another question, your work as a deputy minister, how's that going, briefly?
All right, so the IFP is celebrating 50 years. It's next year, March 21. It's been the best of times, it's been the worst of times, but we have come out stronger. We have been able to learn from experiences. We have been down, but not out, and we have always, been the comeback kid, and we are on an upward growing trajectory. And so we go into this 50 years buoyed by the fact that we are registering growth again, and of course leading government, and in KwaZulu-Natal we're going to continue showcasing our ability to govern. And so we go into that celebration confident that we will be able to take the party to the next 50 years. And if I count, I'll be 87 then, so I'll still be around to reach the IFP's 100 years. On the issue of the conference, we are currently in a process of auditing. We had suspended the issue of the inauguration and auditing of branches to focus on elections. Currently, 800 branches are going to be audited, and 1,400 branches which are on the roll are going to be inaugurated. That process will be concluded in December, and then the processes of conference will begin next year, and we will have the conference no later than August 2025.
Okay. Unfortunately, I wish I had more time to actually talk to you, but me and you, we have a date the next time on the politics.
It's not a problem.
And we'll be talking
I can
about
only
your
say
work
on
as a
transport, we are doing the best we can. It's in good and capable hands, and we will report back to the country. But systems are in place, work is taking place. It's October Transport Month, and I think South Africans can be confident about the leadership of that department and ministry.
Mkhuleko Hlengwa, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Of course, that was the IFP National Spokesperson and the Deputy Minister of Transport, Mr. Mkhuleko Hlengwa, just talking about the party's reflections on the 100 days of the GNU and everything to do with the party's preparations for their 50th celebrations next year. Now, moving on to this story, the ANC's NEC will be holding a special meeting this weekend, which will focus on finalizing the terms of reference for the Integrity Commission, as well as giving a diagnostic review of the state of the organization. This was revealed by the party's Secretary General, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, who attended the wreath-laying ceremony for the late Albertina Sisulu. Mbalula called for the current membership of the party to emulate the integrity of the generation of the struggle icon. Sisulu, who is often referred to as the mother of the nation, made an immense contribution to the liberation of South Africa while working tirelessly to serve and uplift the community of Soweto and fight for women's rights. In commemorating the life and legacy of the late Albertina Sisulu, those from her political home and family paid tribute to her on her birthday by laying wreaths and conducting other activities. The ANC's Secretary General said to honor Sisulu's legacy, the party's National Executive Committee will be meeting this weekend as part of its efforts to renew the party and rebuild its integrity. 90 of the party's members were implicated in state capture, whilst the Integrity Commission is still seized with determining the Justice Minister Thembi Simelani's alleged involvement in VBS.
I need to clarify the point that the Integrity Commission is functioning and working. So anyone who's facing whatever challenges they are facing, they present themselves. The Integrity Commission then present those reports to the National Executive Committee for decision making. So we've got the reports that we have received, and they will be presented to the NEC. So anyone can present themselves to the Integrity Commission voluntarily, or otherwise they can be called by the Integrity Commission. So the Integrity Commission, when finalizing their reports, they present them to the Secretary General. The Secretary General then present the reports to the officials and straight to the NEC. And then the NEC then take a decision on the recommendations of the Integrity Commission.
Sisulu was also remembered for redefining the role of women in politics. The Women's League says they are up to the challenge of occupying leadership roles, not only in the movement, but society as well.
In any position that is available and where we have a leadership that is a woman and ready and fit to stand the test of time and have all the capabilities and qualities that are required in terms of the criteria from the guidelines. And if that comrade meet all those requirements, we will occupy any position, not only that of the example made by the SG, but also even that of the president or even the Secretary General position for that matter, if it's available.
Whilst the Youth League says the struggles of stalwarts like Albertina Sisulu will be in vain if the country's youth remain in a state of hopelessness.
Of course, the struggle looks different. The struggle is that of economic freedom now and not later. If we do not attain freedom now and not later, it means this struggle was futile. It means what they fought for, Abomam Sisulu, will never achieve. If young people in majority are still unemployed in this country, if young people in majority are still hopeless in this country. So to honor this legacy is for all of us to be selfless leaders of the ANC.
The family of the anti-apartheid activist says a lot can be learned from Sisulu, such as the ability to forgive.
One of the most important lessons I'll quickly talk about is just the lesson of mercy. Is forgive those who have done wrong to you, and you shall seek the peace that you long for so much. Anger, jealousy are emotions that do not help you, especially when you are in pursuit of a greater good, when you have people to serve, when you have a community to serve, when you have a clinic to go to, when you have young children to look after. You cannot have these negative emotions in you. If you have been done wrong, forgive those that have done you wrong, and you shall go further than them.
Years after passing, her political home has committed to renewing itself in a memory. Natasha Phiri, SABC News, Johannesburg. Political analyst Dr. Levi Ndo joins us for more via Zoom. Dr. Ndo, thank you so much for joining us on the Politics Wrap. So I suppose you heard the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, mentioning that there will be a special sitting of the NEC this weekend, and top of the priorities will be finalizing and adopting the terms of reference for the Integrity Commission, as well as the diagnostic overview of the state of the organization. How do you see these discussions panning out amongst NEC members this weekend?
Good evening, Natasha. Good evening to the viewers at home. Quite expected that the NEC has to look at issues relating to integrity, and I know that there are a number of issues that the ANC Integrity Commission has to look at, and there are a lot of expectations that ANC members and ordinary citizens in South Africa would love to get from the ANC. What becomes more important, and I think quite urgent, is for everyone to see the Integrity Commission as a structure that has got weight, as a structure that is respected by everyone, and indeed which should be seen to be doing its work or executing its mandate in a satisfactory manner. The ANC also has to look at diagnosing the serious challenges that they face, and I know that the ANC on the poor performance in the past elections and how they move forward in ensuring that they build the different structures of the party and ensure that they come with much better strategies that are directed towards rebuilding and strengthening the ANC as a brand and as an organization. So those are the issues, in my view, that are quite expected. But equally so, the ANC, in my view, should also be able to identify people that are more destructive within its ranks than those that are constructive. And what we've observed in the past few years is that the biggest danger of the ANC is not necessarily from outside the ANC, but the biggest danger in the ANC comes from within.
Dr. Ndo, you know, you speak about expectations of the Integrity Commission. Could we see an ANC that will actually crack the whip on those who are found wanting or eventually found of wrongdoing? Because you look at the state capture report, I think over 90 of the ANC members have actually been implicated in the state capture report.
The ANC that is serious about renewal, and the ANC plus and about the brand, and ensure that those that could be implicated in tarnishing the brand or putting the party into disrepute are supposed to be brought to book. The ANC, in my view, should not be seen as a party that is still comfortable, accommodating and creating space for people that behave in a manner that is destructive to the party, which also cost the party its votes. And the ANC that still want to be seen, to be caring for the people, and indeed the ANC that wants to be seen to be against corruption and wrongdoing, should be the very same ANC that is very serious about ill discipline and wrongdoing. And one expects the ANC to do exactly that. There is nothing wrong with a political party that takes harsh action against those that are destroying the party, because the party that will do nothing about such party would move towards slowly dying.
I want us to focus on another political party. We saw my colleague Natasha Phiri covering the MK party today. They opened a case against the National Treasury on charges of fraud and corruption. And of course, this relates to the failed integrated financial management system. Do you believe that government is actually treating this fraudulent tender with the urgency it deserves? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the EFF also raised this matter in a statement yesterday.
Sometimes people, when they are not taken to account, or when people are not used to accountability, they might continue doing wrong things, assuming that what they are doing is correct. And that is why we have got opposition parties, and that is why ordinary citizens are also encouraged to ensure that any form of wrongdoing has to be reported and action has to be taken. My view is that you don't necessarily need political parties to end up having to open these kind of cases. You need those that are given responsibilities to run these departments to be at the forefront of ensuring that they act against wrongdoing. Yes, we do know that there are instances where there could be processes that are underway. There are also possibilities of colleagues trying to protect each other. But if it reaches a point where political parties have to stand up and go and be seeing that less is actually being done by those that are given responsibilities to act. And it should not only be seen as an act of negativity, it should also be seen in the context of accountability, in the context of caring, and indeed in the context of saying that those that are given responsibilities to take care of state resources should actually do that in the best interest of all of us, and any form of wasteful expenditure should never be accepted and tolerated.
Okay, Dr. Ndo, thank you so much for your time. We will catch up with you, of course, as this week progresses. Mpo, there is a lot that we actually have on the politics front this week, but trust us, SABC News, to actually deliver all those top political stories. So that's all the news that we actually have for this hour. More news at the top of 10.